Hi, it's the Jiu Jitsu Oracle. We're back with a show that is going to talk about the Super Slam, which is something you might hear more about in Jiu Jitsu over the next few months. Who are we? I'm Ross. I'm joined by the Jiu Jitsu Oracle's creative director, Calum. We trained together at SBG Aberdeen in Scotland, and since January, we've been talking about all the big shows in Jiu-Jitsu, try to preview and review events of interest. Now, this weekend, I believe there's no grappling really on, right, Callum?
None that I'm aware of, anyway.
And if there was grappling on, Callum would be aware of it. So, the weekend following, we have the Brasileiros, one of the IBJJF Grand Slams. There's 4. We've had the Euros, we've had the Pans, we've got the Brasileiros, and then finally we'll have the Worlds. And that leads us towards the aforementioned Super Slam. So, Callum, what else makes up the Super Slam?
Yeah, so the 4 key majors for IBJJF, starting the year off with Europeans in January, and then after that Pans, although obviously those 2 have already passed. We've got Brazilian Nationals coming up, and then the finale of that is Worlds, which is usually late May, early June. So that's like the regular Grand Slam. The Super Grand Slam, though, only one guy has done, is those 4 competitions, and then also ADCC. So obviously the Super Grand Slam can only be done once every couple of years, but it's the 4 key majors, and then on top of that, ADCC Worlds as well.
Okay. As you mentioned, it's been done once before in history. Who has achieved this notable accolade?
Yeah, so the only guy to do this in the past is Cobrinha. He did it in 2017, which was the last year of him being an active competitor.
Okay. Now, before we go further, I always forget this bit, but apparently you should do it when you do social media and broadcasts and use YouTube and Spotify, etc. Try and like and subscribe and follow and tell your friends and comment and share the good news that is the Jiu Jitsu Oracle. Right, so now that that bit's out of the way, that's important admin, I'm led to believe. Back to Cobrinha. Why was Cobrinha able to do this? So for people who don't know, Cobrinha, and I think like he's maybe not as talked about currently because he's sort of from a generation just before like the generation that really blew up and a lot of people will know. You know, I think if you follow grappling for a long time, you'll definitely know Cobrinha. If you're newer to Jiu-Jitsu, he might not be on your radar. So, who is Cobrinha? Why was he so good, Calum?
Yeah, so Cobrinha is an interesting one. The fact I like about Cobrinha, so Cobrinha is like one of the greatest of all time, gi and ogi, multiple-time ADCC and black belt gi world champion. But interesting thing about Cobrinha, and it kind of gives hope to people starting a bit later in life, is I believe he started jiu-jitsu at the age of 21. So he'd done, obviously, you'd probably be hard-pressed to find someone that could start jiu-jitsu with no like athletic background at 21. He did do capoeira and stuff like that beforehand, but for actual jiu-jitsu, he started at 21, and then went on to become, I believe, 5-time black belt gi world champion and a 3-time ADCC world champion. So starting at the age of 21, that's pretty good going. And I think by the time he'd retired, I think that was in his late 30s, that 2017 run where he did the Super Grand Slam.
So, looking at his jiu-jitsu, why do you think he was able to achieve what he did? What was notable about the way he played the game?
Yeah, so I think his big advantage in ADCC was definitely the stand-up. So his rival throughout his career was Rafa Mendes, another GOAT in the sport. They've got very similar resumes. Rafa with 6 gi world titles, so 1 more than Cobrinha, but then Cobrinha has 1 more ADCC world title. But Rafa won some of the earlier ADCC finals that they found themselves against each other in, and then Cobrinha won a couple of the later on ones that Rafa was against him. And I think the big advantage for him in that was just having better stand-up. And then even against his finale in his last ADCC win, he beat AJ Agazarm, who is a Division 1 All-American wrestler. So, and he won that primarily on the feet as well. So really good wrestling for that rule set. And then in the gi, same with his no-gi game, but just like overall really good game. Really high percentage sweeps, that kind of classic collar and gi pant come up sweep. I think that was like the first guy I really saw doing that. So just super high percentage sweeps coming up on top, really solid passing game, good stand up as well in the gi, although he was quite happy to play guard as well. So just really good overall game. Some cool innovations as well in the gi, stuff like kind of lapel or platas and stuff like that we didn't see too much before Cobrinha.
Cobrinha, lighter weight.
Yeah.
Ability to wrestle up well from guard. Something you identify with, Calum, just now?
Something I'm working on myself, yeah.
So I think it does make like a huge difference if you're only able to sweep by sort of turning someone over. You can never like come up to standing position and put someone down. There's probably going to be a bit of your game that's missing. Also, if you're able to wrestle up and put someone down, like the ability to pin them off the sweep's huge. Whereas if the sweep's more like twisty-turny, you might end up in a bit of a scramble. And I think the sweeps only count if you're able to pin and control off them and get your points. So definitely something Calum's been working on in his game recently, though. So when you see Calum back out on the competition scene later this year, might see some wrestle-ups.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, talk about Cobrinha's 2017. Is it a contender for the best finish to a competitive career ever in Jiu-Jitsu?
Yeah, well, considering no one's done that before, and that was his last year, there's probably the strongest argument for that. Pure legendariness, I would say. Leandro Lowe's last year winning his final gi world title and then sadly dying a couple months after is up there as well. But I think pure achievement wise, you have to put Cobrinha number one for that.
I think as a one-off moment, Roger Gracie beating Bichecha in his last match, like career rival, hitting him is a fantastic moment. But I think as like a year-long
campaign,
Cobrinha's is pretty impressive. Off the top of my head, I don't know if anyone's outdone it. But if you can think of anyone, please let us know. Now, on the year though, 5 tremendous accolades, winning the IBJJF Grand Slam and then adding the ADCC on top. But something we look for on the Jiu Jitsu Oracle is strength of schedule. So when looking at people's achievements, it's useful to look at how they competed, but also who they competed against. So do you want to talk about that a little bit? What do you think of Cobrinha's strength of schedule in 2017?
Yeah, so interesting time for that featherweight division because, like I mentioned previously, his career rival Rafa Mendes retired in 2016. So, and then on top of that, we've kind of seen a new generation of featherweights come through in the last few years. So I think there was a bit of a transitional period. Don't get me wrong, there were still some amazing guys in that division. Some notable names I'm seeing sticking out just for like the whole year of 2017. So we've got like Gianni Grippo in there, he stands out. We've got Paulo Miao in the ADCC, AJ Agazarm, Jameel Hill-Taylor, that went to a decision, quite a close match. Yeah, those are the kind of the names that stick out. So obviously some amazing names, but we're going to be comparing that to someone else that's going for the Grand Slam this year, which is Mica Galvao, and seeing, you know, who's going to be more impressive. Obviously, Mica hasn't done it yet. We're just projecting if Mica does do this, is his run going to be more admirable just based off of who he's beat. But yeah, there's obviously some amazing names in there, but those are the kind of ones that stick out. And obviously great grapplers, but there's no Rafa Mendes is there's none of these like newer guys that have came through the new generation. So possible critique of Cobrinha's run in that 2017 Grand Slam.
Yeah, and then leading into the discussion about Mica going for the Super Slam, if he achieves it, it will likely be the case that he tops Cobrinha's achievement based upon the names that he will have beaten should he achieve this. So, first off, Mica has won the Euros and the Pans. Probably, well, his most notable victories in both of those events were the finals against Andy Murasaki.
Yeah.
First match was closer than the second match. The second match we saw classic Mica, close guard, arm drag, back take, submission. And he was playing with a foot injury that he suffered in his first match, where he was putting a real spot of bother, serious, legitimate footlock attempt that he managed to endure, but the effects of being in that submission attempt did hamper him throughout the rest of the tournament. And we saw him, I think, change his style a little bit to get through the following matches. So he's going into the Brasileiros off the back of that. We've not really seen much of Mica since then, so don't know how the injury is. He has pulled out of a WNO event that, because it's no gi, heel hooks are a threat. That would have been on May the 10th, I believe. So he's not doing that, but he is doing the Brasileiros that come a couple of weeks before that event. Calum, first off, do you favour Mica to win the Brasileiros and make a hat-trick of IBJJF titles so far this year, having had a quick look through the division?
Yeah, I don't think there's too many superstar names in that division that I can see taking out Mica, as long as Mica obviously isn't too hampered by that injury that happened at Pans.
So the second favourite in the division is Andy Murasaki again.
Yeah.
So we beat Mica against Andy again. Calum suggested to me before that Andy Murasaki might be the strongest runner-up that exists in all of Jiu-Jitsu right now.
Especially in the gi, rate Andy like really highly. He's just ran into some absolute superstars like Tynan and Mica and Jonathan and all of his divisions, so he hasn't been able to get that black belt gi world title yet.
But he has got some notable titles to his name.
Yeah, I think no gi black belt world champion. I think there's either gi European or Pan. He's won one of them, but not both. So yeah, he's got some majors under his title, but I think the main one for him is getting that gi black belt world title,
which is going to be tough with Mica Galvao in front of you and some other people who will come on to talk about. We'll do a deeper dive into the Brasileiros in our next episode that should be out early to middle of next week. So we have Mica coming off an injury. Did you see a difference in the way he played at the Pans once he'd hurt his foot?
Yeah, we spoke about that a little bit. We kind of used that to highlight how well-rounded his game was, that you could quite easily switch to like a different style and still be successful, but he did look like he was being very cautious about someone wrapping that foot up again, employing a bit more like over-under passes, keeping his legs away a little bit, and then in the final he just managed to jump close guard, and then it was pretty much a wrap from there once he got his sequences going. So yeah, we'll see how he's recovered. He's obviously a young athlete, so maybe he'll be fully recovered by then, but we don't really know to the extent of like what the damage was. Obviously enough for him to pull out of this WNO match, but I guess we'll find out pretty shortly how he's doing with that injury.
And the WNO match, it was going to be against Tommy Langacker, was it?
Yeah, against Tommy, and I think Andrew Tackett's jumped in for that one.
Okay. So there'll be more talk about WNO in the future, but we'll keep it on Mica Galvao for now. So let's just say Mica comes through the Brasileiros as champ, has the 3 IBJJF titles to his name so far, and goes into the Worlds looking for a 4th.
Yeah.
Who do you think could pose a big threat to Mica at the Worlds?
Yeah, so I think this is when it really heats up for Mica, and if he was to win this, and then on top of ADCC, this is when he would really separate himself from Cobrinha as far as who he had to beat for his Grand Slam run. I think, to be honest, this is like, from who I'm thinking is going to be in this division, this is like one of the best gi divisions I've ever really seen, to be honest. So we've got the returning champion Jansen Gomez in that middleweight division. We've got...
Now, hold on. Right, so I have seen Jansen Gomez...
Moving up.
No. I've seen Jansen Gomez training in a checkmat preview video for the Worlds.
Yep.
So he's already on it. We've not seen much of him on the competition scene this year, but I think his focus is firmly on defending his world title.
Yeah.
So,
to be fair, he's a big guy. I think he could maybe be like a middle heavyweight in this upcoming Worlds. I'm not really sure, but I'm just going to have to go off of what he did last year. So we're going to stick him in the middleweight for now, unless we see anything else about that. So yeah, we've got the returning champ, and then we've got the guy who he beat, who's almost like the king of that division, even though he didn't win last time. So we've got Tynan, that rematch that we've been hyping up.
Although Tynan could also move division.
Yeah, again, any of these guys could move. We're just kind of predicting who we might see in it. So Tynan versus Mica is like one of the biggest matches ever, I think. And then Jansen, who's the returning champion. And then I think I've seen some stuff about Ty jumping in there again, Ty Rotolo.
Ty has already planted his flag in the ground, and his name is on the list. Obviously, he could still move division up until a much later date, but his name is there already, so he has said, I am coming.
So I think just those 4 like that is just like a ridiculous possible semi-finals, and then not even taking into consideration guys like Andy Murasaki, who I've already mentioned, I rate very highly, and then a bunch of other good guys could be in that division. But I think if Mica comes out of that, which I do, even though it is like ridiculously difficult, obviously guys like Tynan and Jansen as well, I do favour him to come out of that if that is the division. So I think that would really separate him from Cobrinha. I think those guys, the pedigree of those guys I just mentioned, are like a decent bit ahead of any of the guys that Cobrinha beat in his Grand Slam run in 2017, as far as I'm concerned anyway. I don't know about you.
Well, yeah, we'll have to do a deeper dive come Worlds time. But if you beat any of those guys like semi-final and final back-to-back, that might be the toughest last 2 matches that anyone's faced to take an IBJJF world title. And then, as you said, if you throw it in the mix, you could have a quarter-final against someone like Andy Murasaki.
Yeah.
Come through, that would be phenomenal. I'd really like to have a look at the strength of schedule of previous IBJJF champs and see who they beat to take the title in the later stages. So, yeah, Mica's facing a tough task there to come out on top. And then, hot on the heels of that, it will be straight into no-gi season and the ADCC. And again, those divisions are filling up fast. We've had nearly all of the trials, and we have had invites going out. So, if Mica does ADCC, he'll be in the under 77 division.
Yeah.
How's that division stacking up just now, Calum?
So just counting out the invitees and the trials winners so far, it's looking like we've got 13 out of the 16 confirmed at the moment. 1 more of them will come via the second Asian trials, and then we'll get a couple invites as well. So the guys that are already invited, obviously the more established grapplers, we've got Cade, the guy that beat Mica in the final last year, got the two-time champ JT Torres, got Nicky Ryan coming in on an invite, Jonathan Gracie getting an invite, Mica himself, and then Dante as well, who usually gives Mica a really good match. And then from the trials so far, we've got Joseph Chen, got Elijah Dorsey, Andrew Tackett, Luis Medeiros, Alexandra De Jesus, Tommy Langacker, and Kenta.
Okay. Just instinctively just now, who do you favour to go deeper in that? Who might be the guys come the final four that Mica might have to face?
Yeah, I think just like last year, I think a slight cut above the others, that S tier. I have put Cade and Mica in that S tier. I think they're the two best guys in that division, two of the guys that I favour to get in the final, and I think they'll probably be the number 1 and number 2 seed, given that they both made it to the final last time. Some other guys I could see doing well. Dante got bronze last year, looked solid the past couple of years. Can definitely see him get into a semi-final. Joseph Chen, bit of a wild card. I've not really seen. Well, obviously he had an amazing run at his trials. He's still quite new at this level, so obviously progressing very fast as well. So it'll be interesting to see if he can make it far. Andrew Tackett as well, another one that could possibly make it quite far. I would put JT in there. It's just we're not really seeing the same sort of level from JT as we saw from him previously. Nicky Ryan as well, another wild card, but again, he's not really proved himself at this level, especially more recently. But again, he's beaten guys like Dante in the past. But definitely Mica and Cade, I think, are a bit of a cut above the rest at this moment in time.
I think Andrew Tackett's a real threat.
Yeah.
Because of his style and his willingness to engage and take risks.
Yeah, it'll be another rematch for Mica. I think they had a match on WNO when they were both a bit younger, maybe around 16 or so. Mica getting the best of that one, but obviously they both made pretty big strides since then, so that would be good to see.
Yeah. And I think Cade, on form, has looked one of the best grapplers in the world this year so far. Very impressive in one championship, which irks Calum a little bit because the exclusivity deal that they seemingly have means that we get to see less of Cade in other events where there are a lot of name grapplers, but it is always worth one championship wherever you can find it to see Cade and Ty when they're in action. So that covers Mica should he get through the upcoming Brasileiros and then face the Worlds and the ADCC, looking to finish off a Super Slam. But there is one other contender in the mix who's a bit of a sleeper. So much of a sleeper that come the first major of the year, we neglected to mention him. Which we have to own up to. There's no point in shying away from it. So, Calum, who else is in the running for this Super Slam title?
Yeah, so we've got the son of the only man to do the Super Grand Slam. We've got Kennedy Maciel, son of Cobrinha. So he is so far won the GI Europeans and the GI Pans, and I think he signed up for Brazilian Nationals, and also he won the trials as well. So he will be going to ADCC as long as nothing happens in between now and then.
He won trials as well, so it could be the Super Slam.
Yeah.
So he has not quite hit the same tier as Mica yet, it's fair to say.
No.
So that's why we've not focused as extensively on him. But he has had a great year, and I think he has improved massively this year based on a couple of years previously, because he really came to the fore in the ADCC
Yeah.
That was a good couple of years ago now, right?
Yeah, he got second at ADCC Worlds in 2019. I believe he lost to Tanquinho in the final of that. But yeah, with Kennedy, I kind of feel like his first few years at black belt, obviously had a lot of hype around him because he had success at the colored belts, and then obviously being Cobrinha's son, and he had some really big achievements. He won black belt Nogi Worlds in 2018, and he won the gi Nogi Pans as well in 2020, and then kind of almost forgotten about him a little bit in this last couple of years. He's not really seemed to perform as well up until this year, where he's came out and he's been doing really well. So obviously that gi European and Pans this year, and then we've seen him do really well at trials and AIGA, so it almost feels like a bit of a return of Kennedy, like a 2.0 coming out this year, so quite exciting in that aspect. But yeah, obviously not quite achieved some of the things that Mica has done so far, but again, it kind of feels like maybe this is a different version of Kennedy coming out this year.
Have you seen anything in his game that might suggest a change, or do you think it could be mental or physical or a combination of all three?
Yeah, I don't know what was really going on in that couple of years where we didn't see him do as well. Maybe he was dealing with some injuries or some mental issues. I don't really.
I just mental in terms of like how you play the game at this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not battling schizophrenia or anything like that, I'm sure. Yeah, those things maybe have something to do with it. I think in general he's always been pretty well-rounded, and we've seen more of that from him this year, like good stand-up, good passing, good guard, all that stuff. Generally seen that from him. I think he's just maybe looks like he's taken everything to another level. Is there anything you've seen in particular regarding that?
No, that's why I'm questioning. I just have seen him go on a tear, super confident, looks like a winner every time he goes out. I haven't really seen a huge difference in his game and the way he plays it. He's just been competing very well. So, I mean, it's difficult. I mean, the weight class he's at, he's always going to be up against exceptional people in the later stages of tournaments. So maybe he's just figured out how to beat them, you know, like a marginal gain here and there, and that's the difference.
Yeah, when it comes to these kind of divisions, like you can still be at that level, but just it not go your way for a couple of years just because of the fact it is so competitive. Doesn't necessarily mean you've fallen off or anything, but like if there's like 5 or 6 guys in those kind of divisions that are at that level, it's unlikely to go your way unless you can separate yourself from the pack.
And if Mica is to lose and this achievement doesn't happen, is there any way other than he just like taking out the fact that like he can run into someone like Tynan Dalpro, right? Just take away the name. Is just there any way you think Mica's potentially beatable?
Well, obviously he's dealing with an injury. I don't think it's anything too serious that could potentially cause him issues, but like we've spoken about quite a few times now, Mica's one of the, if not the most well-rounded from a skill perspective. Like we see him super comfortable from the feet, really strong submission attacks everywhere, amazing guard, amazing passing, and then athletically as well, he's just able to do stuff that other people can't do. I think just because he's a different level of athlete to a lot of these guys as well. Obviously training from such a young age as well as probably being quite genetically gifted. So again, if you're not kind of taking into account that you can run into guys like Cade that also have that sort of ability to like snatch stuff up in a second, and that can kind of go either way, and then coming up against guys like Tynan, I don't really see how he is beatable except from otherwise just coming up against like a equally talented opponent.
So I teed that up because I thought it would give us a chance to say, yeah, Mica is incredibly well-rounded, and beating him is going to be a Herculean task. I do think that the only way he loses, it's kind of, as you suggested there, talking about how Cade beat him last time, or how someone like Jansen Gomez could be, is just like the speed of an exchange. You come out slightly on the wrong end of it, and you're either submitted or you're behind in a match, and you can't get back into it. You know, like Jansen and Tynan.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
It was just an exchange. Jansen got points, and then he's so hard to score on, and he knows how to play the game that, you know, that sort of thing come in. But I think just going up against Mica's jiu-jitsu and playing against them, I don't think there's any area where he's going to want.
I don't think. You just have to hopefully get an opening like Kay did and end the match there, or potentially get an opening to get a little score, and then just be really good at like consolidating the match for the rest of the time, and hopefully arcing out that win.
So, anything else you want to add on to the conversation about Mica or Cobrinha or Kennedy and the Super Slam?
No, just an exciting year. Looking forward to seeing how it plays out.
It is an exciting year, and we wanted to talk about this to add to the excitement that's happening in Jiu-Jitsu right now. So you've seen the depth of some of the divisions that could be coming up, and I think stories like Mica going for an historic achievement that he might adds to it.
One thing on that, actually, comparing him to Cobrinha, is quite interesting, the disparity of age that these two guys are going for. It's obviously Mica's one of the youngest guys in the sport, I believe maybe 20 years old now, and then Cobrinha, I'm sure, must have been in his late 30s by the time he was getting his Grand Slam out of the way. So quite interesting to see that you could potentially achieve this like at either side of that kind of age range for where you can still be competitive in the sport. I think Cobrinha was definitely at the tail end of where we can see people being like still top end athletes in the sport, and then obviously Mica's at the total opposite end of that.
So basically, Mica's currently, or maybe not quite yet, at the age that Cobrinha was when he started doing.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. That's crazy. Yeah, Mica's already achieved what he has, potentially getting this Grand Slam before Cobrinha even started Jiu-Jitsu. So it just shows you the potential that we could see throughout Mica's career if he can stay healthy and keep competing in Jiu-Jitsu.
And it just shows you what you can do if you're a little bit older.
Yeah.
You've still got plenty of time to work with to become a great competitor, like Cobrinha did. Any matches people should watch Cobrinha in if they've not like extensively sort of dived into his career?
Yeah, any of the old ones with Rafa Mendes back in the day, they go back and forth a little bit. Tended to see the earlier Gi ones, Cobrinha beating Rafa and then Rafa taking over from there. But either way, depending how the match went, it was still amazing to watch. And then kind of the opposite in ADCC, Rafa was winning some of the earlier ones and then saw Cobrinha winning a lot of the later ones. But yeah, just go watch some highlights, go watch some of the matches with Rafa Mendes back in the day, and you'll learn a lot from that.
Okay, that concludes our chat on the Super Slam. We'll be back with a preview of the Brasileiro next week.